Good morning, young adult classes. We are here once again going through our Sunday school lesson for today. If you have been following with us for the last couple of weeks, you know that we have been in the Ten Commandments. We have covered the first four, and I believe this week we will be starting on commandment number 5. It's a commandment that the most of us know, and if you have children, you've probably kind of quoted this at them a time or two. But so if you have your Bible, you can open up to Exodus chapter 20. We'll be in verse 12 today, and we're going to be looking at the commandment, honor your father and your mother. Honor your father and your mother. Now, we will, if you have your lesson there, and if Clay posts that today, we're not going to go through that entirety of the lesson where it goes into, I believe, 2 Samuel and all of that. We're just going to be looking at just this commandment, speaking about it some. And hey, good news, it should be shorter than we normally have here. So anyhow, honor your father and your mother is where we are today, and this is the commandment that we're looking at. I guess I'll go ahead and begin just by reading the entire verse here because, as the book of Ephesians reminds us, this commandment that we see here is the first commandment with a promise. Now, we've seen some commandments that have a punishment with them so far, but we have not yet seen one that comes with a promise, and this is the one. So, Exodus chapter 20, verse 12 says this. Moses writes, he says, honor your father and your mother so that you may have a long life in the land that the Lord your God is giving you. So what we see is there's the command and then there's the promise that goes along with it. And we'll get to the promise here in just a little bit. But first, let's think about the idea of honoring your father and your mother. Now, this represents sort of a shift in the Ten Commandments where what we see is that the first four have dealt with our relationship to the Lord, right? You shall have no other idols, you shall have no other gods before me, remember the Sabbath, don't misuse my name, right? But now we're shifting into how we relate to other people, how our relationships in this world are supposed to be built. And whenever you're talking about our relationship with our parents, we're really talking about the most primary relationship, the most basic relationship that any of us have. There are some of you out there who are married and some of you who aren't, right? There are some of you out there who have children and some of you who don't, but there is no one out there who does not have parents. Now, just as a word for us to make an acknowledgement, some of you just have the most incredible parents of the world, right, in the world, and you love them to death, and they have made just a huge impact on you, and some of your parents may have named you Sue, right, and then just ran off like the old Johnny Cash song. But whether you consider them to be incredible parents or whether they're just parents who have been absent or missing from your life, the command remains the same. Honor your father and your mother, right? It's the most basic relationship that every person walking on earth today has, right? Is a relationship with their parents. And so that must be very important to us. If it's important to God, it must be important to us. Now, let's look for a second as we start off with this word honor. As I was reading the Sunday school lesson, and if you read it, then you'll see this as well. It says in Greek, the word honor means yada, yada, yada. Well, and that's fine, that's dandy, but we have to remember that we're in the Old Testament now, so Greek is not the language that we're looking at. That sentence should have said, in Hebrew, honor means this. And so the word in Hebrew is going to be the word kavod or kabod, depending on how you want to pronounce that second letter. And what it is it is a word essentially that means weight. It means that something is very weighty or that it is very heavy. If you are carrying a large load, right, right, then it's just very, very heavy. And that's the idea of the word. So it's like there's a heaviness about for your father and for your mother. To put that into right a meaning that isn't like a physical thing, like you're carrying firewood and it's very heavy, right? You also need to realize that there's a heaviness that comes right with the name of your father and your mother, right? And that's a weighty thing. And as we're followers of Jesus, as we're followers of the Lord, that we should be people who realize the weightiness of our father and our mother, right? And we should esteem them. It means due to this heaviness that we esteem them, that we glorify them, that we honor them is the word that we use. It means that we behave with dignity, knowing, right, that we're their children, and that when people look at Tad, right, they see Debbie and Rusty's son or whomever your parents are, right, that there's a weightiness, right, that goes along with that. You may have had parents when you were teenagers, and as you were going out for the night, they would say something along the line of, remember who you are and whose you are, right? Meaning, right, remember who you are as to who you are, who your parents are, what family you're a member of, right? And then whose you are, meaning that you're a child of the Lord, right? And that you want to bring honor to both of those, right? So that in our life, we want to bring honor both to the Lord and to our parents, right? So there's this weightiness, and it's costly, right? And it's also too, just remember, right, that this honor comes not because they deserve honor, not because, right, they've done something fantastic in your life, but just by the simple fact that they are your father or your mother. They deserve honor. You know, while we're on that note, some of you may be adopted, and some of you may one day be adoptive parents. I believe, you know, and this is just, you know, kind of how we can take the principle there, is that if you have an adoptive parent or an adoptive mother, then just by the fact that they've adopted you as their child, they are due honor, right? And so we look at them as your father and your mother, and you honor them, right? That there's a weight that goes along with being them. So now that we've talked about kind of the honor that goes to being a father and mother, let's talk about for a second what that means, right? How do we honor our father and our mother? I think the first and the easiest way that I tend to think about it is to, you know, not speak negatively about them, to be right. Just when you do speak, that you speak with respect about them, that you're not someone who is tearing down your mom or your dad, you know, and you're not throwing them under the bus and all these kinds of things, but rather you are showing your parents, your mom and your dad, the respect and the honor that they deserve just because they're your parents. Now, once again, we have to realize, right, that our parents are not perfect, that there are things that maybe they've messed up on. And truthfully, you know, we may have some of you may have parents who are just completely out of the picture. And if there's nothing else that you can respect them on, right, if there's nothing else, right, the base common thing is at least they brought you into this world, right, and at least, right, they gave you life, right, or the Lord gave you life using them as your parents. So there is an aspect, right, of this speaking honor to them. Now, another thing is this, another way that we can honor our father and our mothers, especially as we're getting older in life, as things get busier, as we get children, as work intensifies, and as our world seems to always have us on the go, is that we need to honor them by spending time with them, right? By emotionally honoring our parents. And what I mean by that is we want to be involved in their lives, right? Think of all the times that in all the ways that your parents have been involved in your life, right? Well, now it's kind of the payback here where we get to be involved in theirs, right? And so that amongst all the other things that are going on in this world, right, amongst all the sports and all the church activities and all the school things that are going on and all the things we have in work, that we must pause and take the time to invest ourselves and our children in the lives of our parents. You know, and we need to do that on a consistent basis, right? Where we're exposing this to one another, where we're spending time, we're loving them, we're emotionally attached, right? And in that way, we're showing them honor as we go. Another final way, right, that we can honor our parents is by taking care of them. Whenever we say the word taking care of them, a lot of times that means we could possibly think of financially, right? We take care of them, right? Meaning that if just like they took care of us financially, if something while we were being raised, if something crazy happens, right, that you're their child, they can rely on you. You see this, and that sounds kind of weird for us, but we see, especially in the Old Testament, whenever you read that moms and dads, right, one of the reasons, right, of the children is as the parents were older, right, and they didn't have the social fallbacks that we have here in the United States, that their children would take care of them. I guess just off the top of my head, that's one of the prime drivers of the entire book of Ruth, is that her sons had passed away, but their wives said, "We're going to take care of you." Right? And so we need to be viewing our parents in that way as they get older, as they get more forgetful, or as they come into health issues or things of that nature, right? That we need to honor them by taking care of them. When they can't take care of themselves, right, we take care of them. Now that can display itself in any number of ways. I know that in my own family, that when my mom's father got older, my papa, as I called him, when he got older, after my mamaw had passed away, that my mom and dad built a little building, just a small little one-room house next to their house, and he moved out there, and essentially they took care of him. And until he passed away, that still gave him like a level of independence, and so he could still feel like he was doing his own things, but still he was close enough nearby to where they could honor him and take care of him. Now, on my dad's side of the family, my Granny Joe, as she got older, she insisted on moving into a retirement home or a nursing home, I guess was the word that we would always call it. And she insisted on doing that. She didn't want to be, she stayed with one of my uncles for a while, but eventually she said, look, I don't want to be in your hair. I just want to be right in this place so that I'm not a bother to you. I'm not too big of a burden on you. And she just insisted on it. And so in her case, the best way that we could help take care of her was to support her in that decision. And then we made an effort to go and visit on a regular basis and all of those kinds of things. And so what I'm saying is there's not one right way or wrong way to take care of your parents as they get older. For some of you, it may be the right way, right, is to have them move in with you or nearby and you take care of them that way. For other people, it may be, that they don't want to do that they would like to move into another area. And if they do that, and if that's their choice, well, then what you do is you say, okay, well, I'm going to honor you by still being actively involved in your life. I'm going to take care of you. I want to come visit. And you're not just going to be a forgotten mom or dad in that retirement home or that nursing home. And so anyhow, there are just some practical ways, right, where we say, well, how are we honoring our parents? And so maybe you need to think about that, right? If your parents are still alive, how are you honoring your mom or your dad, right? Are you doing that, right, emotionally? Are you doing that verbally? And are you doing that financially or in their health? Now, let's be honest, there may be some issues that are out there right now where you've become estranged from your parent for some reason. Maybe there's been some huge disagreement that blew up. We live in a day and an age where families get divorced, and unfortunately sometimes children find themselves on one side or on the other. I would encourage you to really pray to the Lord and seek and ask for guidance on how can that relationship possibly be restored with your parents or with your mom or with your father. How can that be restored so that you can properly honor them? And do look at it as a spiritual issue. Now, that's not going to guarantee that the ice is going to melt in their house, or in their heart. But if it doesn't, let it not be because of your lack of effort on there. Make it an act of prayer. Make it something, right, that you're actively working in, so that no matter what is said about your relationship, you can honestly say and sleep at night saying, I'm really trying my hardest, and I'm doing the best I can to show honor to my mom and father. If there's something that you need to forgive them about, offer that forgiveness, give it to them, and just pray and trust the Lord and walk with Him in that way. Now, as you notice there's one last part of this commandment, and it's the promise that comes in verse 12. Honor your father and your mother so that you may have a long life in the land of the Lord your God, in the land the Lord your God is giving you. Now, I think in general we can look at that as a promise for all of us that if you honor your father and mother, right, then you'll have a long life. Especially because if you honor them, that's going to make them less likely to want to kill you. Right? So anyhow, but if we look at it in context here, what we see is that this is more than just an individual promise that is made, but rather this is a promise that is being made to all the Hebrew people as God gives the commandments, where He says, look, I will leave you in your land of rest and in the promised land, right, as long as you continue to honor your father and your mother and those generations that have come before you. In fact, if you look, I believe it's in the book of Ezekiel, you'll see that one of the reasons that they are thrown into the Babylonian captivity is because they did not honor their fathers and their mothers. And so this is these next 6 commandments are super practical, super everyday life. And so I would encourage you this week, as you're with your children around the table and you're speaking about what God's saying to you through His Word, maybe bring up the fact, right, of saying, well, hey, how can we honor your grandparents, and how can you honor your father and your mother? Or if you don't have children, you can just obviously think and pray and say, Father, am I actually honoring my father and mother? What needs to change in my life? In what way can I practically today honor my father and my mother? And in that way, you may have a long life in the land that the Lord your God is giving you. So that's the lesson for this week. Once again, I know in the written out lessons, there are tons more things that are in there. I believe we'll be talking about David and Absalom, I think even so. But whatever it is, you guys continue with that. But that's the commandment. Commandment number 5, honor your father and your mother. Hope you guys are having a wonderful week, and we look forward to worshiping with you, and we cannot wait to see you again. Just a quick word in case you have not seen the other stuff is that we are planning as of now to reintroduce childcare at our church on September the 27th. We'll still have just the one service at 11 o'clock, but during that 11 o'clock hour, we will have preschool and nursery open, as well as kids church for students or for children grade 1s through 3. So if they're in the 1st through 3rd grade, kids church will be upstairs. And if you have kids that are nursery age, that's 0 through, I believe, 6 years old, then they'll be there. You can just come in those same front doors. Please do not go to the back doors. All that needs to remain closed down for now, but then we'll direct you in and show you how to get back there. All right, so I believe that's kind of our big announcement for that that's coming up, and we're super excited, and you should have gotten an email from me about that as well this week. But until next week, we will see you guys again and continue following the Lord and studying the Word together. Have a great week. Bye.